The year is 1945. Imagine a world where battle cries and explosions have replaced the sounds of daily life. Now, zoom in on the Pacific, a theater not of art and culture but of war and conflict. There sits Manila, a city once bustling with life, now a chessboard of military strategies. Forces from Japan, America, and the Philippines have all set their eyes on this prize. The air is thick, not just with humidity, but with the dread of impending combat. Soldiers check their weapons, civilians pray for safety, and leaders pore over plans. Manila stands at the edge of a cliff, teetering between its past and an uncertain war-torn future. What comes next is a battle that will leave indelible marks, not just on the land, but in the hearts of those who lived through it. Brace yourself. The curtain is about to rise on the Battle of Manila. The Pacific Theatre during World War II was more than just a backdrop. It was a fiercely contested arena where the destinies of nations were decided. At the heart of this conflict lay the Philippines, a strategically located archipelago offering vital sea routes and natural resources. Its importance in the broader context of the war cannot be overstated, as it drew the focus of military planners and leaders who understood its role in shaping the outcome of the Pacific struggle. Manila, the Philippine capital, was a city of contrast before the battle. Known for its unique blend of colonial Spanish architecture, burgeoning American infrastructure, and vibrant Filipino culture, Manila was a lively and peaceful hub. Schools, marketplaces, and government buildings were centers of bustling activity. The fusion of different cultural elements made it a rich and dynamic metropolis. But its strategic location and cultural wealth also made it a target, elevating its status from a bustling capital to the focus of military endeavors. With such a backdrop, Manila found itself balanced on the edge of immense change. The very qualities that made it a center for education, commerce, and politics also made it a critical point in the war effort. Unbeknownst to its residents, the city was on the brink of an upheaval that would radically alter its character and leave a lasting impact on its populace. The players on this perilous stage were diverse, yet equally determined. On one side, the American and Filipino forces teamed up, bound by shared goals and a history of collaboration. The Americans brought along their well-trained troops and advanced arsenal, featuring tanks, artillery, and aircraft that showcased their technological prowess. The Filipino forces, although lacking in advanced machinery, brought local knowledge and guerrilla warfare tactics that were invaluable in navigating the urban and jungle terrains of their homeland. Across the battlefield, the Japanese forces held their positions with grim resolve. Trained to follow the Bushido code, which emphasized loyalty and bravery, they were formidable opponents. Their weaponry wasn't as advanced as that of the Americans, but what they lacked in firepower, they made up for with battle-hardened grit and tactical ingenuity. Known for their use of fortifications and defensive structures, they transformed Manila into a labyrinth of obstacles designed to confound and wear down the enemy. In terms of technology, both sides had their strengths and limitations. The American and Filipino forces benefited from superior firepower and mobility thanks to their tanks and aircraft. The Japanese, however, leveraged the geography of Manila, employing mortars, machine guns, and fortified positions to create a maze-like battlefield. Thus, with players in place and weapons at the ready, the two opposing forces eyed each other warily, each understanding that the Battle of Manila would be unlike any they had faced before. The air grew tense as both sides made their initial moves, like chess players contemplating the opening gambit. The American and Filipino forces prioritized liberation, planning a two-pronged assault aimed at encircling the city and cutting off Japanese supply lines. Spearheaded by tanks and followed by infantry, they advanced cautiously, fully aware that the urban environment could turn into a quagmire of unexpected challenges. The Japanese forces, cognizant of their defensive stance, doubled down on fortifying key positions. Bridges, government buildings, and strategic intersections were turned into strongholds brimming with barricades, machine gun nests, and snipers. Their plan relied heavily on drawing the enemy into the city, where the labyrinthine streets and alleys would nullify the advantages of American firepower and mobility. Then came the moment when tension broke into open conflict. As American and Filipino troops moved into the outskirts of the city, the first shots were fired, signaling the start of a grueling battle. What followed was a cacophony of artillery shelling, machine gun fire, and the cries of men charging into the unknown. In those initial moments, both sides committed to a dance of tactics and countermoves, each striving to outmaneuver the other. The stage for the Battle of Manila was set, and the city braced itself for the turmoil that would soon engulf its streets. Manila's cityscape presented a unique set of challenges and opportunities that influenced the strategies employed by both sides. Urban warfare is a different beast altogether, featuring close-quarter battles and limited lines of sight. The very buildings that once served as homes and offices turned into fortifications, providing cover but also obstructing movement and visibility. Streets became corridors of danger, where a single sniper could halt an entire platoon. The intricacy of the cityscape was a complex web that both sides had to navigate carefully. The geography of Manila further complicated matters. The city was carved by rivers and estuaries, making for natural barriers that had to be crossed under the threat of enemy fire. The presence of these waterways also restricted the movement of armored vehicles, forcing combat to often devolve into intense infantry skirmishes. Buildings, both tall and short, offered vantage points for lookouts and snipers, making every advance a risky endeavor. The American and Filipino forces had to adapt their superior firepower to this environment, deploying troops more cautiously and utilizing their artillery in a calculated manner to avoid civilian casualties. Japanese forces, conversely, used the city's complex layout to their advantage, setting up ambushes and booby traps at strategic points. In this urban maze, where every corner could hold a new challenge, the Battle of Manila evolved into a complex struggle requiring more than just firepower. While soldiers from both sides were engaged in a perilous dance of warfare, the citizens of Manila found themselves trapped in a living nightmare. The city they had once known for its vitality and culture had transformed into a battleground where every street and corner posed the risk of becoming the next front line. For those who could not or would not evacuate, life became a daily struggle for survival. Food and clean water became scarce as supply lines were disrupted. Many took shelter in churches, schools, or even underground, attempting to escape the chaos that reigned above. Hospitals were overwhelmed with casualties, not just from among the combatants, but also civilians caught in the crossfire or injured by artillery. Eyewitness accounts from the period paint a bleak picture. Children learned to recognize the sound of incoming artillery, families huddled together in the dim light of makeshift shelters, and individuals navigated hazardous streets in search of basic necessities, all while avoiding stray bullets and unexploded ordnance. Some stories are too heartbreaking to recount, such as the loss of entire families or desperate parents making unimaginable choices for the sake of their children's safety. Amidst the destruction, the human cost of the Battle of Manila became its most tragic and enduring legacy. Critical junctures punctuated the Battle of Manila, each contributing to its eventual outcome. One such pivotal moment came on February 3, 1945, when the U.S. 37th Infantry Division successfully crossed the Pasig River, breaking through the Japanese line of defense. This move effectively divided the Japanese forces into two isolated pockets, making it difficult for them to coordinate their defense or receive reinforcements. Another turning point unfolded on February 12th, when American troops captured the Provisor Island, a strategic position from which they could launch artillery attacks on Japanese strongholds across the river. The operation involved approximately 3,000 troops and lasted for over 48 hours, but its successful completion enabled the American forces to establish a crucial foothold. On February 23rd, the American and Filipino forces achieved another significant milestone by recapturing Intramuros, the ancient walled city at the heart of Manila. Following an intense 5-day battle that involved both air and artillery bombardment, they managed to breach the walls and neutralize the remaining Japanese resistance. The strategy that proved decisive was the Americans' use of focused artillery strikes to weaken key enemy positions, followed by infantry assaults to secure them. This approach, combined with the Filipino forces' guerrilla tactics and intimate knowledge of the local terrain, systematically eroded the Japanese defenses. In a battle marked by numerous challenges and setbacks, These were the seminal moments that shifted the tides of conflict, each operation bringing the American and Filipino forces one step closer to liberating Manila. When the smoke cleared and the last echoes of gunfire faded away, the face of Manila bore little resemblance to the vibrant city it once was. Buildings lay in ruins, streets were cratered and filled with rubble, and the infrastructure that once supported a bustling metropolis was severely damaged. Even culturally significant landmarks, like churches and historical buildings, were not spared from the destruction. Estimates suggest that 80% of the city's structures were damaged or destroyed. The human toll was equally staggering. Approximately 100,000 Filipino civilians lost their lives, caught in the crossfire or subjected to atrocities. On the American and Filipino side, around 1,010 were killed and 5,565 wounded. The Japanese forces suffered even greater losses, with nearly 16,000 killed during the battle. The Battle of Manila was not just a military operation, but also a catastrophic event that decimated a city and left a lasting imprint on its population. Beyond the statistics, the battle left scars that would take years, if not decades, to heal. Families were torn apart, communities shattered, and an entire generation was left to pick up the pieces of a city that had endured one of the most devastating battles of World War II. If the Battle of Manila has sparked your curiosity and you'd like to explore more transformative events, don't hesitate to click the like button and subscribe for more insightful videos. Your support enables us to continue delivering quality content. Thank you for your time and attention.